I'm really excited to talk about what I think is honestly one of the most important conversations in marketing today. And so I want to convince you all that the topic that we've all been taught in a textbook back in the day, this thing around owned media that I think all of us kind of know about, but haven't really implemented into our businesses in a meaningful way, is the number one strategy for us to navigate the next several seasons of our market. So here's what I'm going to do in a very short and abbreviated time. First, I'll introduce myself. Second is I'll give you the business case for owned media. Like, why is this so relevant a topic in 2023? And then I want to make sure that you can leave with something practical. So we'll walk through 3 steps that you can go and put into your business today to either build an owned media strategy from the ground up or maybe modernize your existing owned media strategy. So quickly, just by way of introduction, so I'm a former CMO, so I'm new to this founder thing, but kind of been building marketing teams now for about 13, 14 years. I was a CMO at a company called Gainsight, and Front, and most recently Hopin. And all along the way, I've kind of believed in the power of brand to be a driver of growth for companies. I think for too long in B2B, we said brand is this like corporate marketing thing that sits to the right. It's a cost center. Demand gen, that's the growth engine. And I found the opposite to be true. And so I've put a lot of that playbook into a book I wrote called Category Creation. And now, as Matt was talking about, kind of building that into a software platform with a company called Audience Plus. And so just if any of this stuff resonates to you, I'm going to move at this clock says 16 minutes and 13 seconds, so very fast. Follow us on audienceplus.com. You can subscribe for free. We've got many, many more case studies and stories around all of the atomic components of a owned media playbook. So go on and check us out whenever you get a chance. So let's talk about why this even matters. In sort of observing the industry for the last, greater than decade, we're undergoing this transition that I haven't yet seen before. This idea of acquiring customers through transactional means. You think of PPC, you think of some of our search marketing components, outbound cold calling, some of these tactics, into much more of a relational way to go to market, a relational way to acquire customers. And if you don't believe me, Dharmesh, the founder of HubSpot, is up on stage at Inbound, I think about this time last year, talking about the future of marketing as community-led. I think we've all heard this term, community-led, this idea of connection kind of at the heart of how we go to market. And I think any marketer would hear this and say, yeah, this sounds great. Like, I totally want to build a community-led go-to-market company. For sure, that sounds good. But this year, I'm just trying to survive. I want to do that, but I'm just trying to get through like the next quarter. My sales team needs pipeline for like the next several weeks. And so I want to do that thing one day, but for now, how can I just help hit the number? And what I have found, the good news, is that the same headwinds that are preventing us from going from transactional to relational are the headwinds that are stopping us today from being impactful, from being effective. So let's talk about what they are. First is, there is so much noise in the market today. And our ability as marketers to actually get the right message distributed to the right members of our audience in the right channel is becoming harder than ever before. And the noise pollution is not going to get any better with ChatGPT and some of these more generative tools coming around. They're great, but when we think about it, they're just going to contribute to a lot of this noise. And where do we have our content teams focused? Typically, they're writing pillar pages from an SEO perspective for an algorithm to drive long-term organic search. And that's great. That's table stakes stuff. But that's not what the content that humans are engaging with. We're watching live streams. We're participating in events like this. We're listening to podcasts. And we're sort of getting kind of missing the plot a little bit from a content perspective when we're focused on algorithm kind of content development versus developing content for actual human consumption, more of the editorial type of formats. Second is that distribution's getting harder. Paid media is often the largest line item in the marketing programs budget and the one that's the most scrutinized by the CFO or by FP&A. Ultimately, when the red pen comes out in terms of kind of finding some cost savings in the business, marketing ends up being first, and it's this line item on the program budget that is always called on. If you're doing paid media really well, it's just getting harder to find efficiencies at scale. A quick example, Airbnb, not a great proxy for us, but a company that obviously is wildly successful, they moved their search marketing budget into owned branded content, and they're seeing a ton, they're able to still achieve their numbers, and their CFO, not their CMO, is on stage saying that was the reason for that, that level of efficiency and our ability to beat earnings was because we are de-investing from search. So this is happening in the consumer world, and it's making its way into B2B as well as we talk about efficient growth and the importance of growing efficiently. Third, our relationship with social media is changing. Don't believe me? Try posting a Substack link on Twitter. Just can't do it. These third-party algorithms are limiting and throttling access to our audience, an audience that has opted into following us on these platforms. And we're, which I'll talk about in a second, we're trying to play games to sort of game the algorithm in order to just reach the folks that want to hear from us and hear our content. And finally, all of this to be said, building our first-party data set of our audience is arguably one of the most important, if not existential, kind of initiatives for us. Obviously, with data privacy laws, with third-party cookies, and all of that supposedly going away next year, that's going to come into play. But it's kind of drawing all of these, headwinds kind of in one place and saying, we have to take back control of our audience relationships, control of our ability to impact pipeline, not just be renting access to our audience from these third parties or paying for access to that audience. Now, there is an industry that has faced these similar headwinds and has come off the other side, and it's the consumer media industry. And if you look at the sort of funnel on the right, the way they think about the marketing funnel is much different than the way we think about it in B2B. They see the world as rented, owned, and monetized. And when we say rented, we mean anywhere where we have to rent access to our audience through an algorithm, right? So it could be social media, it could be content networks like YouTube or Spotify, it could be SEO. Now, we obviously have a presence in those spaces. We have to be where our audience is. But their intention in those spaces is much different than ours. It's not like a community manager, trying to, get our kind of Glassdoor content out there. No, it's actually a intentional act to deplatform that audience into what they call subscribers. And subscribers is kind of new language for us in B2B. We have opt-ins to our marketable database and conversions and language like that, but a subscription invokes this idea of a relationship. These are people that want to not necessarily buy something from us, but they want to learn from us. They want to grow. They want to belong to this movement that we're creating. And so as they're sort of building that owned audience of subscribers, these are media companies, are looking at the first-party data around engagement. What topics are resonating with what subsets of our audience? Who's showing signal of potentially wanting to, or potentially being a customer? And that's how they're sort of monetizing through their own set of data that they're building. And of course, for them, it's like paid subscriptions, event attendance, creator courses, those types of things. For us, it's going to be software licenses. But the conviction that I have is this is a model that we need to learn from, and we have to be intending to build our own audiences in order to kind of navigate through these headwinds. So this all sounds very expensive. I want to spend some time convincing you that it's not. It doesn't have to be. In fact, owned media can be one of the most efficient ways for folks to grow, to hit our number this quarter, let alone to set ourselves up for more of this sort of relational intent with our audience, with our customers. So I'm going to walk through 3 tactics for building an owned media strategy. Typically, we have 5. I covered the first one in a workshop yesterday. I think I see a couple folks that were a part of that. You could go to audienceplus.com to see the full kind of presentation for the rest of these, but with 8 minutes to go, I picked the middle 3. So we're going to focus on these if that's okay. So the first is to produce content in an authentic way that establishes trust. When I thought about building a media company or starting a company that was going to act like a media company, I called every vendor I ever worked with, every agency, and I was like, I need Netflix quality type of content. I want Chef's Table for B2B marketing. And they're like, great, we've got you. We'll give you the friends and family discount. $200K for 6 episodes. I was like, great. as a seed stage company, first of all, I can't do that. Second, I can't stand on a stage like this and tell people, like, hey, you should do the media thing for $200K at 6 episodes of a time. And thankfully, I was super wrong with that assumption around Netflix quality. Because it turns out, most of the content we're actually consuming today, especially the generation coming after, is content produced on an iPhone. Or said another way, content that's produced through a lens of authenticity more than high production content. In fact, high production content can work against us. It could be perceived as a commercial versus something that's much more authentic and real. And that's much more of the currency for proper engagement online than sort of the high production quality. A quick example I share is there's this thing called Monk World. Have anybody seen one of these like squishy monkey toy things? I've done a few of these talks. Only one person has ever seen this. But this, they've created, basically it's a toy that when it hits the floor, it dissolves into like a comedic puddle and then comes back to life type of a thing. They've built an audience of about 2 million folks on Twitter just from dropping this thing from high places, running it over with their car. And it would all feel like just a funny sort of thing. This was sent to me from a friend of mine that works at an e-commerce company that powers their kind of underlying platform. This is one of the most successful e-commerce brands that nobody's heard of. It's the squishy monkey toys. So lowish quality, more authentic quality content can in fact turn into an audience that is bought into this kind of movement you're creating, squishy monkey movement, I guess. Now, we created a at-home studio. We spent about $1,000 for like a good enough desk setup. And so if you're working remote, if your executive team is remote, it doesn't break the bank to be able to set up 2 lights and an SLR, kind of blurry on this screen. And then we built a home studio in our office that had a downstage monitor, a counter like this, a teleprompter, a few more lights for about $15K. But the benefit is, in doing so, we took that CapEx hit up front, which is not a lot of money relative to an agency agreement, and now we can produce an infinite amount of content, right? And I think to do this really well, cadence is almost more important than quality to begin with, to be constantly producing content and that your followership is sort of expecting from you. All right, next is to leverage rented channels to capture attention. And when I say rented, I mean, again, social, maybe content networks, maybe search. We have to be where our audience is. And I recall this moment where I put together this LinkedIn post that I was sort of studying the algorithm, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work to try to get reach. And this one, I didn't link off property. I did all the awkward line breaks that normal people don't write like that, but I did it. And I published it, and it did pretty well. Had like a decent amount of impressions. I was like, great, I think I cracked the code on LinkedIn. On Thursday, 3 days later, I ran the same playbook, and I got a fraction of the posts that I got. I'm talking like literally ran the same exact play. So I did what every like normal, well-functioning member of society does. I filed a support ticket with LinkedIn. And I said, here's link number 1, here's link number 2. What happened? Tell me what happened. And this was their response to me. I'm not trying to expose them here, but this is just the way their business is run and others. Their first recommendation for me was to reset my expectation of success. Hey, marketers, if you got a goal to hit and you're using LinkedIn as a channel to engage your audience, just reset your expectations of success. Great. Second is that posts are scored based on quality, and we knew that, but they just don't tell us what the quality is and how we actually can play to that. If your followers don't engage, your content is less likely to be shown. That means I would need all of you to like or comment or share anything I ever write, or you may never see it again. Like, that's the reality. I'm joking, smiling up here, but this is honestly what we're up against in trying to reach our audience in these different spaces. Don't post too often, or you'll be, have reduced distribution. Don't post too much also. And linking off property is definitely something that LinkedIn does not like. Nor any of the other platforms. So how do you then break through the noise? The first step is to build what Rand Fishkin refers to as algorithmic capital. And this is basically a way of saying, play by the rules. Let's learn the game. Figure out a way to kind of build your algorithmic capital by not linking off property, by posting kind of at the right time, all these things. And then every so often as you've built that capital, depreciate it down by linking off property to a webinar invite or a newsletter sign up, whatever it is that you have on your platform, and then build it back up again. And again, it's a shame we have to do this, but this is, again, just the new rules of marketing in terms of how we can reach our audience. Short form video is increasingly driving a ton of engagement, and so that's in the feed. Folks are really getting a lot of amplification in the channels through that. Maybe if you have a podcast, you sort of like have a clip, and that's a short form video clip that you can then link to the full podcast elsewhere. And then finally, if you are going to use paid media, that's what LinkedIn is. It's an advertising product. That's what Twitter is. That's what all of these rented channels are. So let's use them as they're designed and intentionally focus campaigns against driving subscribers or driving traffic to our owned properties as well. All right, I'm going to go super fast to the last one here, build an owned audience of subscribers. So the idea here is if we're successful in getting people from LinkedIn or Twitter or search or YouTube to our website, why on earth would they subscribe to our content? Like, what's the point of just subscribing? I already hit this point, but subscription is so much more than just a database opt-in or a conversion, something to that end. There's a relational kind of component to it. Now, the average B2B website sees a conversion rate of about 1.1%, roughly. Any guesses to what a typical consumer media site sees? 10%. A 10x improvement in conversions in consumer media when they lead with a value-driven call to action versus a commercial call to action. Now, don't hear me that we should just take all of our get sales, talk to sales, get demo buttons off our page and like go all in. Then you like literally are a media company. We don't want that. But finding a way to go beyond just like the CTA in the footer or the newsletter sign up that's buried deep within the pagination of the blog, like we need to find more ways to invite people to follow us and to see more of the content that we're producing. And potentially 10x the amount of folks that may not be ready yet for software, but they're here to learn. So the way that we do that is to build a value proposition for a subscription and to market the value proposition. So today it's typically in B2B a newsletter, if anything. But think about that more and taking some lessons from the consumer media world. How can we kind of build something that's a bit more kind of fully kind of developed? So first is to continue to release content on your own media platform. That's free, that's ungated, so people can get a taste of like what type of content can I expect. They should continue to publish to Spotify and these places. But the second component is to create exclusive content that's just for subscribers. And again, think of a webinar as in fact a exclusive stream that's just for your subscribers, right? Just by different language. But maybe producing podcast programs, a blog series, a whiteboard session with your CEO, what have you. And the key here is to not gate every piece of content in a very unnatural and weird way for our visitors. We gate access to membership, much like with Netflix or something else. You sign up once and subscribe once, and now you have access to the entire library. Merch is kind of having a moment. I'm not sure if folks are experimenting with merch at all. It's not swag. Swag is our company. Merch is about you. It's like the inside joke for your industry, your community, and it's a powerful way of cultivating belonging for folks that are investing in merch. I want to end on this really quickly. I'm up on time, but it's almost cheesy to reference Liquid Death in marketing and B2B marketing now, but here we go. They do an incredible job of positioning a value proposition to being a member of what they call the country club, the Liquid Death Country Club. Now, their brand is all the way through this, and I don't condone some of this language, but they literally built the most commoditized product ever, sell the most commoditized product ever, water. It can't get more commoditized than that. And yet they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers into their community that get free access to merch that's exclusive to members of the community. They get invites to events and those types of things, right? And you can kind of get a sense of some of the other ways. All you have to do is sell your soul, apparently. So definitely don't condone that. But that's an idea of how even consumer media companies, consumer packaged goods companies are building an audience beyond just the cans that they sell on the shelves. All right, well, that was extremely fast. I'd love to spend more time answering questions. I'll stick around here for a little bit. And the full kind of walkthrough on these 5 is available on audienceplus.com. So check it out. It's free, and it's a topic we're very passionate about and trying to get folks together who are building their own media strategies. So thank you.